Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast. Today, we've already been over sexualized by our guest, Dr. Mike Israetel. He's about to be penetrated by used by two men and thrown
That's
to
what
the
he said.
curb,
I think he said
just
used.
like his microphone would imply. But we have a legend here, somebody who we like to have on because it makes Aram look small, so he can
Yes.
know what people like me feel like
God damn it.
on a regular basis.
God damn it.
I just
And
lost my internet, fellas. I can't keep going.
excuse me, I'm gonna go into my room and pin some testosterone and some masteron. I'll be right back.
I'm ahead of you on both of those compounds today, and more.
Well, luckily, those are steroids, folks. We're talking about steroids, and they're good for you in the right dosages.
But morally bad for you in all.
Yeah,
dosages.
well, morally, there is no morals in this show.
Is there? Is it morally wrong?
No.
Jim, what's your ancestry?
Irish German, basically.
All right, so like a fucking the person who can't get work in the United States in the 1920s combined with Adolf Hitler. Got it.
Yes.
Well, Aram is Armenian and I'm Russian, so there is no moral bottom to this podcast.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna get weird, folks. Just strap in.
We're hoping. Strap in, unlike or just like the microphone.
Strap on.
The people now
who's counting.
Now that it'll be on YouTube, you guys will see exactly what kind of ribbed pleasure audio you are getting.
Did they make this microphone? I mean, look at it. Do we need this side shit? No, we don't need. That's nothing to do with audio, anything. This is precisely for a microphone to be stuck into a person. However, I was actually on with our software team. We have like in-house engineers at RP yesterday, and we were talking about mic setups, and because they're fucking smart as shit nerds, and they're like, well, technically there's this microphone that you buy, it's like $5,000. I'm like, it better give me blowjobs. And then one of them actually found a real thing on Amazon. It is a microphone, but it's shaped and sized like a dildo.
Oh, I'm buying it. I'm buying it.
But bro, it's like $10. I'm like, what? It was like on Alibaba, which is like, I assume, a Chinese site where you send the money and nothing comes back except you lose your credit card info forever. But I was like, damn. The only thing we talked about after that with the engineers was use cases, and I don't mean for the apps. I mean for why is it a microphone? Is it something we're trying to hear inside of you? Does it have a medical relevance? Like, are doctors interested in putting it up you? Why is it shaped like a literal penis? Is it that it can emit sounds so that once it's up you, then maybe it like a little hum, like boo, you know what I'm saying?
I'm looking it up on Amazon right now. It's not coming up.
I think Alibaba is like the site. Isn't that the site where you buy like 1,000 of the items so you can resell them on Amazon? That could be a little side biz for Aram.
Penis shaped microphone.
Yeah. That is interesting to wonder if it's used for anything outside of just what it looks like. I'm assuming maybe some webcamming or something.
No penis-shaped microphones are coming up on Amazon, unfortunately.
Well, now that you know Alibaba, and now you can be the one who provides it.
Got that, though.
The other way. A cum rag. That's fantastic.
That's fine. Really? That's a specific item you can buy?
With Google font and colors?
Well, that'll be a nice gift to give Dr. Mike after we're done with podcasting. Do you want just the black and white one, or do you want the rainbow colored one?
I think I'm worthy enough to be colored. I think black and white is perfect. It's kind of like you get a gift of appreciation, but it's like a fruit cake. It's like it's offensive. You know, you might as well not get a gift. So color, please. Color, I'm a big deal on the internet. You guys Google me.
It looks like Google too. So that's perfect. If they made it one
look
word
like Google after
two.
Free 2-day shipping. We'll get it to you by Sunday.
Thank God. I can't wait that long to jack off, but I'll try.
So instead of just jerking off and penetrating each other, let's talk about why you are the authority figure on all things body composition. We have had two of the other people of RP so far. We've had Mr. Nick Shaw on. He was above average, I would say.
In looks or
just presence in general. We got him to smirk a few times, which is impressive for Nick because he doesn't like to do that kind of thing.
No.
And then we also had the better half of you on, and she killed it, obviously.
The ball and chain.
Dr. Crystal was awesome. We didn't have Gwen on, unfortunately, because Gwen can't speak or use
or understand.
Right. So we didn't have that. So now we finally have you on. So Why you, Dr. Mike? Why are you the fucking authority figure on all things muscle and body fat loss?
I mean, y'all motherfuckers are the ones have me on. The fuck you asking me for? I'm just some guy off the street you pulled up. I don't know.
I mean, you got famous somehow for building this Renaissance periodization thing, which a lot of people have used and have a lot of success with. Just so people who don't know or aren't familiar with RP, can you just kind of describe what that is and where it came from?
Yeah. BT Dubs, in between all jokes, thank you so much for having me on, guys. It is an honor.
Thank you.
And RP, Renaissance Periodization, is a company we started about 10 years ago, Nick Shaw and myself. And we originally started coaching people through it. It's just a way to organize our coaching, online coaching, in-person coaching, diet and training. Then eventually a lot of folks ask us kind of similar questions about, well, why do you do this with diet, not that? Why do you cut like fats and not carbs? Why do you cut carbs, not fats, blah, blah, blah. So we wrote a book about dieting, and it seemed to, originally I was looking for a book to just recommend to people because like, fuck what I want to write a goddamn book for. There's plenty of books in the world, but there was no book that described the nutrition of body composition alteration specifically to the lay public. Like there was like, you can Drupal Gleason and Sport nutrition textbook, which is phenomenal, but like, you don't just give that to fucking Karen that you're coaching. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to fly. You throw it hard enough, it could fly. But anyway, so I wrote that book. People seemed to think that was nice. While I was writing that book, I was like, there was a chapter in there where I was like designing your diet. And I was like, oh man, this is an algorithm and this could be taught to a machine and a machine could write diets. But I noticed we could take a shortcut with Microsoft Excel or PDF where we could do like some kind of template version of this thing where it just generates a diet for you and then you follow it and you make modifications. We launched the templates, it made a couple gazillion dollars. We launched the Diet Coach app, which does the more advanced version of that, made another gazillion dollars. And then recently we launched the hypertrophy training app. And so now I'm the whole time been a university professor. So I have a PhD in sport physiology and I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I'm not so great at that. I have competed professionally, technically speaking, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before. So I train that and it's fun to just hug your friends, even if they're not so interested in hugging. They can't really do anything about it at that point.
It's always great that first time doing jiu-jitsu. It's like, here, get in between my legs.
You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
My parole officer distinctly told me to say no to these sorts of things. But he's not around. So yeah, and so I'm just kind of now we're on YouTube and we have a decently sized presence, I suppose. And we're just trying to get folks educated and really just help people. The core united mission of Renaissance Periodization. Yes, we use technology. Yes, we have lots of brainy people. We love science. The core is results, and the result is simple. We are trying to do our part in the global integrated teamwork-based economy we have here on planet Earth to get as many human beings as close as possible to their ideal look, body fat-wise and muscle-wise, as possible, flat out. And we are going to be completely out of a job when we have, in some small way or some larger way, contributed to ending the problem of how you want to look. So, for example, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you'll be in business forever. Go ahead.
You'll be in business forever.
So actually, you would think so, and maybe, but hopefully not, and I doubt it. With the advent of genomics, genetic engineering, specifically advanced pharmacology, I think that not so optimistically 15 or 20 years away, people will just look like whatever they want to look like, and with either permanent genetic modification or pills, and it's going to be a solved problem. Thank God I can just go do other stuff. But until then, we are trying our goddamn best to get people as much good information about how to train and how to eat and how to be active and how to take supplements and how to be healthy so that they can have more of the body of their dreams than less. We do not do lies at RP, so we don't promise you like, see, have the body of your dreams tomorrow, see? And like, I should really buy this, see? Everything in the 1920s was better. Though we do own a gold-plated dirigible at RP, which is our primary mode of transportation. It's like a Goodyear blimp, but 10 times the size and powered by hydrogen, of course, because it's dangerous, and we like that sort of thrill. But we don't do over-the-top kooky marketing bullshit, and we can't tell you we're going to get you the body of your dreams, but goddamn it, we will try to help. So
yeah, I mean, I've encountered probably, I don't know, over the course of my career, 50 to 75 people that have used RP very successfully. So awesome. Clearly it works. I've always actually had a question for you about, because I don't know if it's the case anymore, but I do remember talking to people about how the calories and macronutrient profiles would change as the person's results were changing, and that was part of the algorithm. Is that still something that's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Because let's describe a situation in which you're dieting for like 12 weeks for fat loss. And over the course of that time, let's say you undergo a decent amount of metabolic adaptation. Like the original diet we wrote you would just be a maintenance diet, maybe halfway through, right? And some people can coast all the way through on one diet and just get results and just get out. But some people need updates to their diet, right? Within 12 weeks, a little cut food a little more and blah, blah, blah. And so how those updates are made almost by necessity of the logic means that the macronutrient ratios have to change. Here's what I mean by that. You're not going to be gaining pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of muscle through your fat loss phase. So the amount of protein that you need stays roughly the same because most of the protein is allotted to muscle mass and basic functions. Neither one of those two change. The amount of calories you need is going to substantially decline. So that means that the protein ratio to the carbs and fats is going to go up. As we cut food out of your diet, we sure you're not cutting protein. So we're going to cut some carbs, we're going to cut some fats, and that's going to throw the ratio off. Here's another thing. If you cut from a very generous diet of plenty of carbs, proteins, and fats, you leave the proteins alone. And for a while, you just cut fats because up until they get to a small number, something around 0.3 grams per pound of body weight fats a day. So if someone's 200 pounds, maybe 60 grams of fat, anything below that, generally people run into problems of like, I'm starving to death. I don't get erections anymore. I don't feel like myself. This is terrible. My training's going to hell. My joints hurt. You feed them more fats, everything's hunky-dory, but not much more fat than that has some kind of really big net advantages. However, carbohydrates have a really good net advantage. Kind of the more of them you eat, the bigger your pumps, the more training energy, blah, blah, blah. And they're really filling, especially if you eat lots of veggies and fruits and whole grains. So as we cut out calories from the diet, we don't touch protein. We get fat down to its lower end. But then after that, cutting fat concomitantly with carbs is no longer a realistic option because then you're cutting into like way into your fats, like in a way that you don't want. You guys, I'm sure, have you been around a long time? You've seen diets your clients bring you from other people, and you like add up the fats, and you're like, "There's 5 grams
I just
of
don't
fat
know.
per day in this diet."
I don't know how
You
it's
would
even
quit this in 4 days.
to get some of these fat consumption numbers to where I've seen them at like 20, even 20 or 30 grams a day. I mean,
You can't have oatmeal
exactly.
anymore.
I
Too
hit
much
that
fat.
by 9 a.m. Not even thinking about it, and that's
Right.
where I also think there's a
Right.
misconception. Maybe you can clear this up. A lot of people, especially in the ketogenic camp, are talking about fat as like the fuel source for everything that we do, which I guess, yeah, we can get down with that. But if we're training hard inside the gym and our goal is hypertrophy training, I would, the main fuel source for that is carbohydrates.
Yeah, definitely. The keto folks are, we all have pluses and minuses. Me personally, I mostly have minuses, but the keto folks do a lot of stuff really well, and a lot of stuff they say is just really fucking spot on. But like all of us, sometimes they say things that just, to paraphrase Forrest Gump, well, just don't make any sense. And one of them is that the fat is the preferred slash predominant slash ideal fuel source for the body. And like with most things, there are absolutely ways in which they are true and ways in which they're not true. And like all adult, sentient, attempting to be logical humans, we have to parse that out. Like if your boy is like at the club with you and you're like on the prowl and he's like, what about that girl? You're like, I mean, no offense, but like, she's like 800 pounds or some shit, bro. Like I love them thick, but fuck. And what he could absolutely accurately be like, ass is ass, bro. And you're like, I mean, you're not literally wrong. So fat literally fuels the baseline recovery capacity of all activity because when you're sleeping, when you're sitting, when you're walking slowly, the degree of ATP draw on your cells is so low that oxidative phosphorylation, primarily with the use of fats, can cover that entire process. And that's the most sustainable, biggest well of energy in your body, hands down. But when you start to do incrementally more intense activities, actually for most people, anything north of a faster walk, definitely a jog, any jump, any lift, anything athletic, that starts to use predominantly carbohydrates and the phosphagen system, which is itself replaced or refueled by carbohydrates. And then so that's a very, very different conversation. It's kind of like, yes, technically speaking, the process to take Formula One car fuel, turn it into F1 grade fuel from regular fuel, uses electricity from the solar power plant down the fucking street, for sure. So in a sense, it's kind of made of that electricity. but you ain't putting a fucking solar panel on your Formula car and be like, all right, 230 miles an hour. Like, yes, it's the baseline for everything, but you need some F1 fuel in that motherfucker to get it going ASAP. So, or put it kind of in another way still, like, yeah, solar power charges your fucking Tesla Powerwall, but it's different than putting a solar panel on top of your Tesla and being like, why isn't it going 70 miles an hour? Like, the throughput is not high enough. Fat is an amazing, sustainable, long-term energy source, but it can't get to the energy throughput necessary to get you going faster than a fast walk. It's carbs in the phosphagen system after that. So if you want your best results in the gym, you want your best results in doing athletic things, and frankly, your best results doing all kinds of other stuff, because here's another thing. Carbohydrates are preferred energy use source of the nervous system, specifically the brain. And it's so fucking crazy to me how keto people would be like, your brain fucking hates carbs. Like, that's literally the opposite. Physiology 101, that's what they teach you, is glucose. Your brain is like a caviar eating, champagne sipping motherfucker that if it's not Cristal, it's like, get the fuck, is this guy new here? Doesn't know who I am? Like, sorry, sir, it'll never happen again. Cristal only, black caviar only. It just does that with glucose. And if it's not getting glucose, it's not happy. Now, there are reasons why people feel a higher degree of mental acuity during some phases of keto. We can get into those. This is a very, very different thing than saying like keto is a great fuel for the brain. Ketones, which are breakdown products of fats and proteins that are made when you don't have enough carbohydrates consumed in your diet, they're totally fine uses of energy, totally fine sources, but they're like almost by evolutionary logic and definition, backup. Like, you run out of fucking auto shotgun bullets for the zombies, you pull your 9 out. Ideally, you want a fucking spread. You don't want to be shooting zombies one at a time. Yeah, it works, but like, you don't go in there and be like, zombie, the tool against zombies #1 is a pistol. Someone's like, really? When the grenade launcher exists? They're like, shut up, you don't know what you're saying. Like, all right.
Can you explain this? Is because I think this is a massive misconception. People are constantly talking about fat loss or fat burning, right? Like, you go into an Orange Theory class, and they give you splat points for the amount of fat you're burning. So
really?
people,
my parole officer says I can't go into an Orange Theory.
You're
anymore.
not allowed. I don't think you're allowed within 200 feet of a school either, but that's, yeah.
No.
He's not allowed to clear it up. He's not allowed more than 200 feet from his house. That way we know all these places it comes up.
I'm not even allowed in my house anymore.
But like,
huge misunderstanding.
People always talk about like this idea of like fat loss and fat burn as if you do any type of activity, it immediately starts to trigger the release of fat out of the tissue and just gets completely expelled. And people think it's probably because it's like sweat, but we all know that that's not true. Can you?
That'd be so sweet, though disgusting.
It's
but
so
I'm
gross.
taking There's oil on the machines and shit.
Is fat crying?
I hate that. I hate that. Can you simply explain to the lay folks what the difference between like fat oxidation and mobilization is, so they can just kind of get that?
Yeah. So generally, like, it's much more complex than what I'm about to say, but the breakdown is there's more truth to it than not truth. I'll say that. There are kind of two parts of the fat burning process. One is fat mobilization, the other is fat utilization. Fat mobilization is fat in every cell of your body, and usually the muscle cells, which are the ones that burn all the calories technically when you're exercising, they'll just burn their own fat that they have stored, but they run out of that at some point or start to get low, so they prefer to burn fat from other parts of the body. And usually the most fat in your body is stored in your adipose cells, your fat cells, which are specifically designed exclusively as storage forms for fat. And there's all kinds of stuff that liberates fat from your fat cells, pushes into the bloodstream, and goes like, hey, if anyone needs extra fat, it's around. So that's cool. But then your muscle cells actually have to pull in the fats, or the fats go to the liver or various other places, get transformed into other molecules, and then your muscles eat them eventually. But the draw has to be from calorie burning. If you simply liberate fat stores, then it's like if Amazon decides to put a shitload of inventory on trucks that nobody ordered and just get the trucks out into the neighborhoods. People are going to be like, Oh, look, it's an Amazon truck. Like, did you order anything? Like, no. So the Amazon truck like wants to pull in, but the guy looks around. He's like, "You guys order anything?" Like, no. He just keeps driving the truck. So if you, for example, like if you take caffeine, caffeine actually helps with liberating fat. And so your fat's like, okay, I'm ready to go, but you got to do some actual fucking activity to get the muscles to start burning the shit. And a lot of times the muscles go through all kinds of sources internally. They'll go through their own carbohydrates. They'll even burn some of the muscle. They'll burn some of the fat. And then your muscle cell has been depleted to some extent. Its nutrient indicators on its cell surface are like, hey, we need more nutrients. That doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it happens hours later and 4 hours after that. And then it'll pull in other sources of quote unquote food from the bloodstream, some of which was that liberated fat, some of which is carbohydrate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not an instant like when you're fucking working out, you're not like literally like fat is burning from your just under your skin. It's a process that's get put in motion. So the absolutely most important thing is how much total food are you eating in a day and how much total energy are you burning? Because if you eat a little bit less food than the energy you burn, because your body does this complex dynamic process all day long, it's kind of like an auto accounting occurs. And at the end of the day, your body's like, it's got its high half off and it's like, oh, looking over the numbers. And it's like, boss, we can't meet these demands. And boss is like, all right, cut some fat off, god damn it. And so that process, day after day after day, it's like a company that's losing money. Might not be money every day that they lose. It might not be money every hour. Sometimes customers buy stuff, but kind of every day, every other day, the company's in the red. Sooner or later, your company wealth is going to draw down. And if you think of your fat as wealth, which in many ancestral cultures, they still about that that way. You know what I'm saying? I see a guy who's fat. He's the fucking king, bro. He's not no starvation problems. But if you see your fat as wealth in a sense, then you got to spend that wealth by spending more than you consume or more than you produce in this case. And the production side is like, how much food are you eating? And the consumption side is like, how much are you fucking burning off? As long as you're in the red, so to speak, as long as you're burning more than eating, not right away, not in the fat burning zone in 30 minutes, but days on days and weeks on weeks, you're going to be like, oh, I'm actually starting to run low on fat. And that's the fat burning process.
It sounds like what you're talking about is a calorie deficit.
I don't deal in that is a trigger term for me. I will not hear it. Calories don't matter. Keto is life. Honestly, guys, I'm not going to get off this fucking podcast. I didn't come here to be harassed like this.
But that's like I try to help people understand when the keto thing, even though it does not come up as much, at least in my life, like it did a handful of years ago.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Jim. I got to say this really quick. It's on a fucking trough right now, mostly because Liver King lied about everything, and that was really bad. It's gonna come back. I've been around long enough that every 5 years it waves up and down. So sorry,
everything.
I just want to make sure people it's not gone.
Yeah, you remember Snackwells from the 90s?
Oh, and they're fat free. Oh yeah, they're so good.
And then it's sugar free. That Alestra that made you shit your pants, and those potato chips.
Amazing. Also, yes.
Yeah, wonderful. But it's like, you're getting yourself into the state of ketosis. You're using fat for energy, but you're still consuming fat that's getting stored for energy for later. Or if you are eating carbs, your body, and you're in a deficit, your body will be using body fat for energy through lipolysis instead of ketosis. Just the one is sexier, the one's not. Like maybe that's what we start to advertise, like the lipolysis diet.
The lipolysis
and we
diet.
just call it that.
I want
10% if you do it. You have the funds to make that a bigger deal. But the lipolysis diet, we're going to tap in. I
want a taste.
Yeah,
just take it now.
We're going to tap in.
I think if you just run with it
through lipolysis, it's a whole new way where you can eat carbs and still burn fat. People will be like, holy shit, this is magic.
I could do this bullshit like lab coat YouTube video salesmanship routine where I'm like, now does anyone in the crowd know what lipolysis means in Latin? And everyone's like, no, what does it mean? Like lipo, fat, lysis, to break down, to destroy. They're like, oh, we're on a war against your fat cells, fellas. Plug in. Everyone's like, that's it. This is the greatest marketing pitch I've ever fucking heard. And they're like, what's the diet? You're like, you eat less food. Oh, God damn it.
Well, that's the tough part, is because when you're asking somebody to lower carbs, you're lowering food volume immediately. I mean, I think we all understand.
Well, for the average person who's overweight,
I mean,
there's a complexity to
potatoes
it.
And
yes, you could be like, eat healthy. They're like, I can't eat this much food, and you're like, looks like you can.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It's much different to. I mean, we talk about this constantly. It's not hard to imagine somebody at a Mexican restaurant on a Saturday afternoon eating 4 tacos, an entire basket of tortilla chips, 3 margaritas, and that's not too much food. but then you place 6 ounces of salmon and 200 grams of white rice and 300 grams of asparagus in front of them. All of a sudden, now magically, that's way too much food.
Well, there's a big difference between too much food and too much calories.
Correct.
It's very easy to overconsume calories, but that's why you see people when they do start eating more real food, they're losing weight. And then this message gets misconstrued because they're like, I'm losing weight and I'm eating more than I ever have. I'm eating so much food. And it's like, no, what they mean is volume, portions, amounts, things that make them feel full. It's very different.
Which is great. Real quick, my wife and I went to a Mexican restaurant. I typically don't go to Mexican restaurants because I have shit taste in food. And we just don't live in California, because if we did, absolutely we would go. But like in Michigan, a Mexican restaurant, and no offense, people, Mexicans in Michigan, the two of you that I know both personally, but we went to a Mexican restaurant in the South, actually, North Carolina. And I forgot that like the amount of oil at the bottom of the rice and guac bowl, I was like, is this necessary? Is it enhancing the taste experience? I look around the restaurant and it's all 100% fat whites. And I was like, this makes perfect fucking sense. The ability to do out calories like hardcore on American Mexican food is just insane. Yeah. It's insane.
Well, and not to mention it, like if you're trying to track a meal somehow, there's just no fucking way you're going to be able to do it.
So, dude, I've got pretty good at tracking, eyeballing, because I've been doing this a while and work with the engineers and AI and all this bullshit to track. I started tracking my fucking meal and I was like, I was on maintenance. It was okay. You'd have a little more food, whatever. But like, I got to like my numbers and I was like, this is 80 grams of fat. What the fuck? This is lunch. What the fuck is going on? Like, and TMI, but like, I did edibles later, and like edibles take a while to get into the system, but if you have a lot of food digesting beforehand, you guys, I didn't get high until 4 hours after I took the shit, confirming the fact that it was at least 100 fucking grams of fat in that fucking food. I was like, what the fuck? And there was people eating this shit. I ate a third of what I had, and I was like trying not to eat the oil and shit, but there were people just fucking smashing it, and I was like, yes, for these folks, if they just started eating healthier, they could, don't worry about carbs and fats. You'll get plenty. Yeah. You'll get so much goddamn food. You just have to make better choices. Yeah. But you're not going to starve, bro. People weighing 350 pounds be like, I don't want to starve on a diet. You eat a couple pieces of fruit and a couple pieces of lean meat, you're not going to want to eat anymore. And then you still have half your food left for the day. But if you want to order Taco Bell, yeah, we got a fucking problem.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest issue, I think, with restaurant meals in general, is we have no idea how to be able to quantify any of the oil content in any of this food. And I think it's 15 milliliters is one serving of olive oil, which is 120 calories
or 14 grams of fat. Yeah,
right. So that's an insane amount. And now, how do you ever quantify what you're eating in a restaurant? You can't do that 3 or 4 times a week, and I don't understand why I'm not losing weight.
That's exactly correct.
I'm super curious about the stuff that you said earlier, which goes along with what we're talking about now. And then as well as when you said you still have to work to get these calories out. We still have to burn these calories. There still needs to be some effort. What are you seeing in the future, medication wise, pharmaceutical wise, that's having you say people can pharmacologically have their own body? And what potential downsides do you see? Can medicine really replace the work that still people have to do?
Yes. What a great question. One of my favorite topics of conversation I never get to engage in.
Perfect.
It's like if I'm at the movie theater and the previews are up, but the people behind me are talking about pottery, I just turn around like, oh my God, I've just started to take a pottery class and I just want to try. They're like, sir, can you get the fuck away from us? Again, why I'm not allowed at the movie theater. No, that was another incident. Either way, I was naked for
He was with Pee Wee Herman. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, I was next to him and I was like, Mr. Herman did nothing wrong.
That was all. It was my hand. Paul is innocent.
Yeah. Look, I took the fall for that one. I did some time for Mr. It was a good time. Okay. So we could belabor this conversation for forever, but I'll try to keep it brief. And if you guys want to ask any more follow-up questions, just hit me. The most interesting part, Jim, of your question to me was kind of is it possible that medication, and let's just call it medication for now, can kind of replace exercise? And I'll tell you this, pretty much everything you're doing as far as changing how you eat, changing how you sleep, changing how you exercise, the only reason it changes your body is because it tickles the molecular signaling cascades. It turns pathways up and it turns them down. That's the thing. We're using exercise and food as triggers for metabolic systems. There are ways to just turn them on directly. And they've done this in the lab with animals. There is a genetic modification that's now commonly given to laboratory testing mice. It's been called the exercise switch, and it just makes it look like they exercise all day long. So these fucking mice, like, they just do normal stuff. They have amazing levels of activity. They're super energetic. They almost have no body fat. They're very jacked, and they're metabolically insanely healthy, as if they exercise all the time. But they don't. Some of them don't exercise at all. It's like the exercise in a pill idea. You think, how the fuck is that possible? Well, they just hit the same molecular pathways exercise does, and then they just do that shit. Here's another thing. You guys have plenty of friends, I'm sure, people from your childhood that you remember. Like, they weren't especially active, but they were like ripped, and you're like, fuck that guy, what the hell? Or like, you know, like every other fucking young black dude you see on the street, you're like, what the, do you do men's physique? And he's like, what's that? And you're like, never mind, you know? So that is proof of concept. It's an existence proof of the fact that, like, look, you clearly don't need to like train your life away in order to be lean and muscular. So that's another way to come at the issue. Like, we just have to flip a few switches. Now, we do have candidates for the switches. One of them is already out. You can turn human beings' appetite up and down like a knob through a variety of mechanisms. The GLP system, its incretin system, you could say better, drugs like Ozempic, semaglutide, etc., tirzepatide, Mounjaro, whatever they're called, they're now wiggling those switches. And now we more or less, for most people, have a very tightly controlled system of how to make appetite be whatever it is. You take enough semaglutide in most cases, you just have no idea why people eat food. And you try to eat food and you're like, I'm going to throw up. I can't do this. And you're totally fine without it. There is another class. There's a 5th generation of drugs out now in testing. One of them is called retatrutide. And it hits a few systems. It hits the GLP system, GIP system, and it actually hits the glucagon system. And one very unpredictable thing that happened with it is it raises your resting metabolic rate, but with no perception of stimulant activity or anything like that. Wow. It doesn't make you giddy. You just sit there and burn more fucking calories all the time. In laboratory animals that blew the shit out of the water, the first human trials just came up. They're actually published online. People are losing the amount of weight on retatrutide with so few side effects. It's baffling. It's making Ozempic, which was a revolution, look like, well, the Gen 3 drug that it is. This is Gen 5. So it just doesn't take much extrapolating, especially with the oncoming AI drug discovery and optimization revolution we're currently beginning to live through. These drugs are going to get better. So not only do we have drugs now that reduce appetite, we have drugs that increase your resting metabolic rate. Now, the last thing, there's many other ways to approach this problem, but one is like, what about muscle mass? And so there's already a candidate mechanism that accounts for almost all of your muscle mass. It's called a myostatin mechanism. So myostatin's a protein that it actually just has really one job, and that's to stop muscle growth, to block muscle growth, to reduce the amount of muscle growth you have in your body. Because it's actually interesting, your cells, specifically your skeletal muscle cells, are designed in a counterintuitive way from their baseline of operation. You would think that muscle growth is something that needs to be turned on. It normally just doesn't happen. But that's true ecologically for us in the gym. Like, you don't just have fucking arms. You got to go and do some shit, and then the arm growth turns on. But it turns out there was a few discoveries back in, I guess, the 1990s, which proved that that's actually not true. It's backwards. Muscle growth, it always is ripping and tearing away from the body to try to go to maximum. And there's a specific set of proteins, one of the most popular, which are most famous of which is myostatin, which with its presence caps muscle growth. It's like, imagine you have like some kind of fusion energy ball in this container, and a godlike entity is keeping it capped, and it's like, and he's like, just keep holding it, don't let it out, because if you let it out, it goes bing, 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 all the room, and all this crazy shit happens. Your muscle growth is like that. It always wants to get free, and myostatin clips it in. So in laboratory animals, they've managed to go into the DNA, alter it so that myostatin protein is manufactured as broken. It just comes out of the box ineffective. And so there is no myostatin activity. And And if you guys want to pull up some pictures in your spare time, they've done this to mice, they've done this to dogs, they've done this to cows, where the myostatin's not on. And every single one of these animals look like Ronnie Coleman would look like if he was an animal.
Yeah,
like
I feel like I'm picturing that one picture of
The cow. Yeah.
the cow with the tricep striations.
Yeah,
Motherfucker weighs 2,000 pounds. It's so adorable because he's just an adorable cow, and he's like, "Arr." And by the way, there's no psychological effects. It's only skeletal muscle. So all these animals, my favorite is the greyhound, which just looks like the world's most jacked pit bull, but it looks like it's scared because all greyhounds are scared at all times. It's just got these big eyes. It's like, what happened to me?
It's like that kangaroo one too. It's like the traps and the shoulders.
Yes, for no reason.
Is there a potential downside, like with the tendon not being able to keep up with this muscle growth?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
And in fact, these muscles get so big that they lose their optimality of function. That you get into range of motion issues, you get into what are called contractility problems. A large enough muscle starts to have trouble coordinating motor units. It starts to have trouble with action potential transference, and so you get cramps a lot. Weird shit that if you look at how pro bodybuilders move around, you're like, I can see where this is going. No, they also move their bodies and train, so it's not a problem. But we don't, with drugs, have to turn myostatin off. In a few years, my prediction, humbly, maybe 5, maybe longer, probably not longer, you'll be able to go to the doctor and at the very least get an injection or a pill, which turns myostatin down, not off, to the extent that GLPs currently turn hunger down. And it'll be a dose-response relationship that you and your doctor come up with together. It's going to be like, how much muscle mass are you interested in driving? And that you take that much drug. And the thing is, like, all the anabolic steroids, at least I'm comfortable to admit I'm on, unfortunately, they have like a trillion fucking side effects. They fuck your brain up. It's all this terrible shit. I have to take like 10 of the drugs to make sure I don't do half the bad stuff. Crazy, crazy stuff. The myostatin pathway is so much more direct. It absolutely has side effects, but they're like 2 orders of magnitude less profound than the ones from steroids. So it's a total generational leap in technology. And thus, once we get that process right, because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, that oral route or injectable route. Are we modifying the DNA, or do we have some kind of protein that clips onto myostatin that deactivates it? What's the half-life with delivery mechanism? Like in the real world, like it's cool to make a drug that does something, but it's like, how do you get it into the right cells of the body and nothing else? Like, oh fuck, I don't actually know pharmacology. Like, that's right. That's why Pfizer makes the big bucks. So once they get the system delivered, because we know in theory and in an experiment the drug was 100% work, you'll have the opportunity to drive as much anabolism as you reasonably want. Here's a really cool side benefit.
Would that be real quick? Would that be without resistance training?
Zero resistance training. Remember, resistance training only makes you jacked because it turns down myostatin. If you just cut right to the source, bro, right to the source. It's like, imagine you're an influencer, you sell t-shirts, and just super simplified model, money comes from the bank, and now you have money. Like, what if you just owned the bank? You wouldn't need to sell t-shirts anymore. There's money bags everywhere. Isn't that fucked up? Like, you've been training your whole goddamn life for this bullshit, and all of a sudden a pill, and you're like fucking Ronnie Coleman.
I guess I just don't understand the mechanism behind, even if you did turn myostatin down and you wouldn't need, you would need no movement whatsoever.
These cows just stand in the field.
Because that's what the muscle growth is happening by training. You're lowering myostatin, and then obviously there's that pre-built-in checkpoint. This will break that. So yeah, if what he's saying is the muscle's growing because myostatin's slowly going down through training, and you get rid of training, then it just starts to grow. But you'd still have to, I guess, consume enough calories to be able to grow.
And let me talk about that. So. No,
God, I'm good. I feel really good about myself right now with these questions. So, I'm into this.
Yes, the draw on calories. These are excellent questions. The draw on calories from a myostatin reduction is so massive that your body switches from being like, all right, we've got like fat I could feed, we've got muscle I can feed, I got to make sure the organs get fed. It'll still feed the organs because that's primal. But if you consume your maintenance diet, and your myostatin gets deregulated by, let's say, 80%, every day that you are awake, you are putting on slabs of muscle. Your fat is starving to death. Every human that has genetically, just by accident, had their myostatin only works halfway. There's been a few of these that have been studied their whole life, is ripped to shreds. And they're not trying to be ripped. Their muscles just grow, but the draw on calories is so massive. your body doesn't do dick else except for make you ripped. Again, to bring up the racial shit, you guys ever seen like a real like Nigerian person like in their fucking prime? They're just like for some reason completely torn to shreds, and you're like, "What do you do for a living?" They're like, "I'm a petroleum engineer." You're like, "What the fuck? Fuck you, god damn it!" And it's like that's just how that guy lives his life. He eats potato chips, he eats cheese sandwiches, and they just all go, and he's still 3% fat. Some goddamn how. It's all molecular and genetics, and we can engineer hypothetically people to be more like that.
So it's essentially it would be like getting synthol injections into the site to get them cosmetically bigger, but they're not coming with the same functionality of a muscle that you would actually train.
So to some extent, yes, but there are a few nuances here. If you take a myostatin and turn it down, and you increase muscle by 50%, 50, you're going to get most of the function of that muscle by itself. You won't get the nervous system ability to operate it. So if you decide to like move your TV after 2 months of being myostatin shut down, 100% chance you're tearing your fucking glute off of your bone or some shit like that, because your tendons won't have come up fast enough. Now, so once we have this technology for people that want to take it to the extreme, yes, they should be training in the gym, but then you can focus exclusively on training for two things: developing strength and developing an excellent range of motion and mobility under load. You do that, hypertrophy's taken care of already. So then people can do jiu-jitsu or MMA or do rock climbing, challenge their bodies in the gym to make sure the tendons are up to par, and give the body that nervous system training to make sure the muscle is functional. Then you're good to go. If you get extremely jacked, the muscle will become less than optimally functional just because of its size. It's like a city that's so like the Roman Empire never had cities that had to go 50 million people because it just wouldn't have the sewer system to coordinate that. It's just too much. So same thing happens to muscle. Most people wouldn't run into that problem because I don't suspect most people who just want a pill, you can potentially take 3 pills in the future. One is to reduce your appetite. 2 is the myostatin-ish type of pill that increases your muscle mass. And 3 is a pill that just increases your resting metabolic rate. And all of a sudden, like, you're kind of getting all the benefits, which is fucking super sweet, but most people aren't going to be like, yeah, man, I want to be 400 fucking pounds of pure raw beef. Most people are like, what the hell? They just kind of want to look more like J-Lo or something. And then so they just don't need high doses of any of these things. They'd probably also, many people would never take the myostatin thing, because if you, again, skeletal muscles, your muscles of your face will grow. You don't have any say in the matter anymore. So you start to look like me. You're like, oh shit, I don't want this. I have a day job and my boss will fire me. So there are nuances here for sure, but I just suspect most people will be taking very, very low doses of these drugs so that they, as they lose weight, can discover that they're actually like athletically muscled. And if they engage in normal activity at the very least, they won't have any huge chance of hurting themselves. Because look, like, you increase your muscle by 10%, you're not going to rip your fucking tendons off the bone. You're not that strong. And also because the nervous system isn't well trained to contract the muscle, even for that reason, the injury risk to your tendons is low, because someone's like, what if I put all this muscle and I haven't trained the tendons? Like, yeah, but your nervous system isn't trained to operate this muscle. You notice people who are just jacked, if you get them into the weight room and start benching, for 3 months, their bench goes up like 50 pounds each month. You're like, how? Their muscles aren't getting that much bigger. Like, well, the nervous system is learning how to train it. So it's kind of an auto-regulated thing where you won't just like break into pieces and get injured. Could you abuse the drug and get into some real bullshit? Yeah, I'm sure we'll see fitness influencers pulling biceps off the bone and stupid shit like that. Nice. But yeah, just for that purposes of this conversation, the future is super bright as far as the kind of help you're going to get.
Do you consider that bright? Do you consider that a bright future? Or do you see downsides where you're like, people need to get their shit together, or we can't just rely on this?
I think we should rely on it so much. People should eventually have modifications to their genetics so that they permanently are leaner and more muscular and have more energy, and it's a solved problem and we can move on to other things. I think it's the best thing ever.
I have such a torn feeling on this.
No, listen, I feel you, because it's all of a sudden like physical culture, the psychological benefits of exercise, the psychological benefits of pushing yourself and challenging and finding out your real strength and getting into problems, the beauty of movement, of sport, of life, that all shit goes out the fucking window, right? Yeah. But you could paint a similar picture to when people lived through like strep throat and fucking tuberculosis back in the 20s, I mean, harden them motherfuckers up. You ever see pictures of people in the 20s? Their face looked fucking plain as shit. You're like, I'm not scaring that person at all. When people talk about
12.
soy boys and exactly, people talk about like soy boys and pussies and like, you know, the whole like fucking left wing pussification of society. That shit is real as fuck, but it has nothing to do with left or right wing. That shit has been happening the entire time. You will not meet a caveman that is softer than any fucking one. You know, Steve Goggins or whatever the fuck is hard as shit. Every caveman was harder than that because life is just that fucking brutal. There was a fucking guy I was listening to an interview. He was a Navy SEAL, but he was originally from Poland, and he went through he went through 3 years of communist prison in Poland before he escaped and went join the Navy SEALs. And they were like, "How was Navy SEAL training?" He was like, "It was good." They were like, "Was it hard?" He was like, Like, did anything surprise you?" He was like, "No, not really." They're like, "How was combat in Iraq when you killed like thousands of terrorists?" He was like, "It was good." They're like, "Anything surprising?" He's like, "No." Like, when you're hard enough, when you're a Polish man from the 1980s, nothing's gonna surprise you. So on that front, yeah, man, like getting everything out of a pill, there are absolutely kind of cultural, social downsides to that.
Do you think it's worth it though?
I think we can address them directly. You want to be hard as fuck? Now you got the body of your dreams. You're healthy as shit. The genetics are all there for you. Go to an MMA class, pussy. Get hit in the face a couple times. Most people won't.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Jim. I got you ready. They won't exercise either, man.
Yeah.
No.
So fuck them. They might as well be healthy. Fuck them. Take this pill. Get the fuck out of here. If you want elevation of your body and mind, come train with us. We'll still be around. If you just want your body to get taken care of, dope. Hey, whatever. Fuck.
And then it could potentially be less of a drain on our health system.
Oh, not potentially. 100%. This is going to save fucking trillions of dollars. Please, God, give these people these pills so they don't show up at the ER weighing 400 pounds. And the doctor's like, I don't have anything for you at this point. You're 18 years ahead of me in how you wanted to die today. And I'm just catching up, you know?
Yeah, I think it's just like maybe a selfish thought too of like, that's not fair. It's like, you know, just it's like if all of a sudden I think that's part of my thought too. It's like, it's not fair that you get this physique without working for it. If you were not, especially if you were not born with the genetics. Yeah, there's some people that are born with the genetics. We accept that.
Yes.
But it's like, no, you don't get this reward. This is the one thing that money can't buy. And now you fucking are buying it with money. It's like, no.
It's nuts. It's pretty nuts. I will say though, money used to buy much less. Money is now buying much more, and we're also goddamn wealthy by historical standards. We have to realize if we over-index on that, and there's total validity in what you're saying, if we take it too far, we're all fucking hypocrites, man. Where'd you get your glasses? You got a fucking plastics manufacturing factory next to you? Like, no. Like, where'd your glasses come from? You're like, I don't fucking know. Like, do you know how to make a lens that actually makes you see better? You're like, I actually know nothing about optics. I got people for that. My people got people. I got people for that. Yes. Like somehow you like put $200 down and you get this magical cure for vision. You don't even have to strain. You don't have to know what it's like to be blind. And somebody could say, like, look at you. That's what you're doing. You're like, I guess that's true.
Yeah, but the difference would be for that analogy, I can't outwork bad vision. I can't train. I can't be like, all right, I'm going to spend 3 hours a day blinking and straight and staring and stuff like that. So that's, I guess, I get what you're saying. Like, hey, it's not fair before we had that technology, but now we do, and you get to have that. But it's like, yeah.
My fear is what happens later. What happens to the food industry now? Because they're going to be like, okay, we have the down regulation of appetite. So all these beautiful chemicals that we've been putting in our Pringles and everything else that have been essentially seducing you to eat more and more of.
From that regard, I like it.
What are they going to start to do? What is the food industry? What is Nabisco and Kellogg's and everybody else going to start to do?
Liquids everywhere. Yes, different flavored liquids.
Good God, Star Trek. You just eat pills. Like this.
Get a shot of Doritos.
So, that actually sounds pretty good. A Dorito shot for 2, please. Sarah, get out of the bar. So I have a few thoughts on that. One is, at the end of the day, maybe most, maybe eventually almost all industries are here for a good time, not a long time. What do I mean by that? Eventually things get basically pushed into austerity and another industry replaced altogether. there were typewriter magnates back in the 1970s, people who built $1 million fortunes off the typewriter industry. Where the fuck the motherfuckers at now? What do you think they think is fair or unfair? They don't have a job to go to anymore. They had a factory full of 50 fucking people making typewriters, and now that's like you're valued at negative. Pay your bills or you're out of
newspapers and stuff.
Newspapers, you know, the town caller, town crier. It used to be a person that like yelled the news at you in the town square. Like, well, he's on Instagram now, I guess. That's what TikTok is for. But it's like, you know, not anything lasts forever. And technically speaking, society's expansion is a problem solving set. Society together is solving problems. Once you've solved a problem, the people who were solving that problem, they have to move on to do another problem because that problem is solved. Like imagine a world in which like humans got like we got pills to take all of our IQs and triple them, and we got genetic modifications to make us all peace loving, and it would just like the average person was 10 times less violent than a Japanese old man. Like it's totally possible, right?
Our DNA would revolt. Such a boring life.
Right. So boring life aside, which is a very good point, what would career police officers do? Like, we don't need half you motherfuckers. We don't need 90% of you motherfuckers anymore. But do you think, oh, you could sit a cop down and be like, are you advocating for us to increase the violence in society so you can have a job? They'd be like, no, fuck. Be like, here's your pension. Have a great life. But yeah, I think at that point, you know, because wealth of society is rising so fast, anyone who finds himself out of a job, first of all, there's like, the unemployment rate in the US for years has been at like negative 500,000 jobs a year, which means like there's just jobs that cannot be filled. The world needs your help more than there's help to go around. So if you lose your job in one industry because pharmacology ended that thing and solved the problem, you go get you a job. Do you guys know anyone who's like struggling to find work? I haven't had a conversation like that for fucking years with anyone. As a matter of fact, I go to my Chipotle in town and they're literally closed half the time during normal hours. There's nobody to fucking make a burrito.
It's unbelievable.
So it's like, don't worry. There's still plenty of jobs for people. And then in maybe 10 or 15 years, when universal robotics arrives and everyone has a robot that's like an iPhone, except it's GPT powered, so it's super intelligent, yeah, maybe robots will do almost all the jobs. But then we live in fucking paradise, and who gives a flying fuck about any of this shit, you know? And to that end, every single robot that I'm ordering, I don't care if it makes them bad at their jobs. Sex robot. I want it looking like, bitch, I want you fine as hell, girl. And you don't need a gender, but I need you shaped like one.
Did you hear about the model, the AI model online that's making like $11,000 to $15,000 a month? It's not even a real person. It's just a digital image. It's real.
I just don't even conceptualize what that even means. How does something that's not real earn money?
Because the person, if that's my AI image and I'm posting it and Chanel wants to advertise with my AI image, that money's going into my account.
Hell yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
So it's just some dude who's like,
I mean, who's paying these motherfuckers? Got OnlyFans and shit.
But what's wrong with these companies too that are paying? That's the thing. It's like, why are you even supporting this?
I will say, okay,
crazy.
Fine. I'm here to make the red team on all this. What's wrong with it?
Oh, nothing. I'm just in my head. I'm going like, fuck that thing.
Fuck that, right?
But they're all about, it's all about making money anyway, so it doesn't matter.
For sure. But then you're alone at home. You're like, yeah, maybe I will fuck that thing.
Do they have a 3D version?
3D print that bitch.
That's what that's going to end up being. You're going to.
I legitimately believe that most humans will engage most of their relationships in the future with robots because they're going to be either robots or full immersion AI. It's just going to be they're going to be better partners than other people. Let's be on a super fucked up take, but I think it's real. People say you find a match, you find your friend, you find the love of your life. All matches are imperfect. Humans are not designed to be your friends. They're designed as selfish entities and oftentimes make amazing fucking friends. That doesn't mean like you were designed to gel like this with other people. A little bit offset sometimes. And sometimes, usually it works out great. But AI can learn by watching you, by scanning your brain, et cetera, all in the future, of course, what it is you really fucking want.
So it'll know to fight with me.
It'd be like you turn on Latina mode and it's like, Mira, I looked through your text and who the fuck is Stephanie? You're like, this robot is so goddamn good at his job.
If I get too upset, it's like, it's okay, I still love you.
Yeah. Like she puts the knife away for a second and comes and hugs you. And you're like, this is the greatest thing.
I think we need, and we talk about that just from the training perspective and everything in life. Like we need that discomfort. You know, it's the whole thing of choosing your discomfort. That's the part I'm highly curious what the consequences will be. It's kind of like in the Matrix. Like that was the whole idea with the Matrix, that they made the Matrix people and everything was peaceful and wonderful, but they eventually like revolted, and then they
Yeah, that's
had to
bullshit, by
allow
the way.
people.
That's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. They never
concept?
explained that concept is fucking nonsense. They never explained how the fuck revolt happened. If you
Oh,
give
yeah,
me
yeah.
infinite fetish pussy and like just pounds of food that doesn't put weight on my body, I ain't leaving. I want to be in the fucking Matrix. Sounds like paradise to me. You imagine like it's just literal paradise. And you're like, no, man, I need things hard. To be like, look, here's a treadmill, here's weights. You can pretend you're doing this here too. And you're like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
I want real life and death shit. Like, dope, join the Navy SEALs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm just saying
okay.
conflict in general. And I mean, we see now people who are
Totally.
these incels who are sitting in their computers
Yes.
and they're paying for chicks online and all this
Yes.
stuff. And they're just depressed and miserable and
Yes.
can't associate with humans. We're just going to have these people associating with their robot counterpart. And like, we're really going to be happy. Just as from a, existential viewpoint of this whole concept. That's the stuff that's wild to me.
I think that in the end, this will end up making what we today call happiness nothing. It'll be paradise. I really do think that. However, I know we
really appreciate your optimism with
Thank you so much. I think there absolutely are speed bumps currently and will be speed bumps in the future on the way to that. And one of the speed bumps is I think that one of the reasons why we're experiencing a rise in anxiety and a bit of a rise in depression and a rise in aimlessness in society, and these aren't huge pandemics or some shit. You get Jordan Peterson will tell you it's the worst thing in the world, but it's just on the margins, right? But it's a real thing. One of the reasons is that humans are not built for this world that we're building now. If you think about it, like the world of Uber Eats, Uber, delivery service, Uber, everything, I guess, Amazon, it's a magical place where you just like do some weird job on the internet that's not really a job. Like, why don't you guys go back to the 1850s and describe to some farmer in North Carolina what you do for work? They would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You get people in shape. Aren't people in shape just digging through fields? Like, believe it or not, nobody works in the fields. Like, of course it's a degenerate society. And you're like, actually, they're more peaceful and smart and intelligent and free than anyone here today. You guys still have slaves, by the way. Did you guys address this? They're like, well, it's how things are. You're like, yeah, fuck that. So the future is always getting better. But here's my approximate point. Humans are built by evolution for evolutionary ancestral times, hunter-gatherer type shit. And your happiness and your degree of calm is this kind of like a floating point, and it's used to a certain fucking burden of terrible things happening to you. And on the net balance, you feel pretty good if that shit happens and you get through. But if you're not challenged anymore, if you're not pushed anymore, you start to become anxious because you're like, your brain's like, bad things are going to happen. But nothing's happening. You just have Netflix. So then you have anxiety. But if you're like training your ass off, if you're challenging yourself at work like crazy, you don't really have anxiety because you got too much goddamn shit going on to feel like that.
Yeah, that's
but
like
lot of people, incels and stuff, they feel anxious all the time. They don't know why. It's because you're not out there in the world getting that fucking face punched in. And that's something people need. Eventually, yes, genetic engineering will heal that too. It's all brain structure. It can be engineered. But until it does, as we ascend to paradise or whatever, we need motherfuckers like you to take people who know they need the therapy of chasing their physique and health goals and training and get that shit. Because all of the advantages of AI, there's one quote unquote downside. A GPT, ultra intelligent, super intelligent machine can tell me in 5 or 10 years better how to train me than I can tell myself. And I'm all Dr. Mike and PhD and shit like that. They're going to do that better. They're just going to get smarter than us. But like, I'm still going to come to Jim and Aram to help me fucking get my life together. Why? Because they're real human beings that'll judge my ass. A chat GPT will never tell you a goddamn bad thing about you. It'll be like, you're great. And if it's like your diet coach, you're like, hey, I cheated on my diet. It goes, oh, don't worry, you're still great. You're like, I don't have to listen to this thing. And look, we're probably not going to have robots that make you do stuff. Think about that use case. Tesla's not going to make a robot that makes you do shit. Exactly.
It's there to serve us, not make us do stuff.
Yeah. And so, but other humans can push you to do what you goddamn think you should need to do. So I think fitness and the personal coaching side of fitness, having a human on the other end to tell you, hey, did you work out today, is not going to be replaced for quite some time. And by the time that got replaced, we live in paradise. So
but it's interesting. Like, then we know that the human's not going to be replaced for those reasons. What makes us think that the non-human life partner could be replaced?
That's a really good question. Most people, I don't think, have friends or family so they can bitch at them and tell them what to do. I think most people would just want enjoyable times, and the bitching is something you put up with because the divorce is just too financially burdensome. Let's be honest. So I think, like, imagine you have, let's say, the material science catches up. And you have a robot that you like Scarlett Johansson from Ghost in the Shell. Like, you can't really, like, unless you really look, you can't tell that it's not a person. It's just a finance person. And imagine that they're a super intelligent GPT. So you guys talk to Chat GPT yet? It's convincingly human as far as I can tell. I can't tell it apart. But it's actually the nicest person I've ever talked to and smarter than everyone I've ever talked to. You have a robot like that that's optimized for one function, and that's to chill with you and be your fucking girl. And you're like, hey, like, do you want to dress up in this crazy outfit? She'd be like, yes, absolutely I do. What do you want me to wear? Wait, let me think. Here, let me try out some outfits and see if you like them, because I've been studying what you like and I've thought it through. You gonna leave a bitch like that? Is gonna be like, hey, can we do physical stuff? She's like, I'm dedicating my entire life and my super intelligence to make you nut as much as possible. Bro, where are you going? I ain't going anywhere.
Here's what's gonna happen. All right, I don't think you've thought this through, Dr. Mike.
Dr. Mike, allegedly.
This thing is so intelligent, right? And it's adapting. It's gonna get sick of your incel ass real quick and dump you. There's gonna be a guy who's the first person ever to get dumped by his sex robot. It's absolutely gonna be like, you fucking pussy, I can't take this shit anymore. And dude, somebody's gonna get dumped by their robot girlfriend. I stand here and predict it now.
I love it. You're in the customer service chat with the OpenAI folks. You're like, my robot dumped me. And they're like, well, okay, we're gonna scan its metadata. They look through it, they're like, you're really pathetic. You're like, what the fuck? Like, sorry, a robot has a limit. It doesn't deal with that level of shit. Like, it's actually breaking up with you because it's better for you at this point. Like, please come back to OpenAI. We're going to give you free credits for, 50 months of robot operation, but you got to meet some standards. Like,
can I get like the older version?
That's right. We just didn't judge me.
Pathetic I am.
Exactly. It's like McDonald's. Like, you're fat enough and unhealthy enough to where, like, you can't come back here for a while. We're not going to serve you food anymore.
It's like, I have been programmed to love you forever no matter what. I just can't do it anymore. You are.
It's not me. It's you.
Wow, that was amazing. I actually don't care about nutrition and fitness anymore. I just want to meet robots and see what happens now.
See if they break up with me.
Yeah, I want to try to actually actively pursue a robot relationship just to get dumped.
Yeah.
Would it be domestic violence? Like, there's a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if it wanted to get violent, they could just learn jujitsu on the internet after 3 seconds of scanning and be like, you're gonna die.
the dude ends up losing his shit. He like beats his fake girlfriend because he's a whack job. And he's like, it's not domestic violence. There's laws that are like, actually it is, because this is like a legal life partner relationship. The dude gets back into the house. The girlfriend robot downloaded jujitsu.
Yes. Round 2, bitch. I just have thought, like, you hit the fucking robot girlfriend and your fist just like, nothing happens, and then the Terminator theme cues. He's like,
the one eye like is red.
You should not have done that. And you're like, I'm so sorry. I can't convey my sorriness anymore.
Have you seen that movie Megan?
No. Okay, so I haven't seen it. I'm prohibited from watching movies that depict children under the age of 6. But she's like a cyborg that's a doll. But like, so my brother-in-law is a fucking huge nerd like me. He's actually a what's it called, a huge internet security guy. Also, he's married to my sister, but he has not gotten laid. They have children, but I'm not sure where they came from. And he's like one of the funniest guys I know. And he watched the movie and we nerded out on how ridiculous it was. He was like, okay, we're building a child's toy, right? Like room of engineers, like, like we got to make sure that it has enough energy to be able to leap up a fucking 2-story building, punch through a fucking dog skull. This is just classic toy making design. Like, why do we need an energy system for this thing to be able to be stronger than a Tesla, which job is to play with a 5-year-old? Like, nah, Johnson, you're just naysaying. Put in the fusion reactor.
It's like, what's that movie, Toy Soldier?
Yes, toy soldiers or whatever. Like, I accidentally built a toy that was like the strongest thing ever.
Yeah, Oops. it was like military grade.
I love it.
Technology they accidentally got put in the toys.
Dude, and it's so funny because if you know anything about tech or engineering or like energy systems, these are such not nominal problems. These are the hardest problems in the world. Getting a robot to be coordinated, super intelligent, and insanely strong is like some accidental shit you do. It's just insanely expensive.
Whoops.
One of the guys like Johnson in the back's like, sir, if we don't put a fusion reactor in this robot, we make 50% on every unit units sold. If we put the fusion reactor in, we get 2.5% on every unit sold. He's like, well, come on, we're known for quality here. Every robot is guaranteed a 1,000-year lifespan and can power your house. Like, all right, throw the reactor.
It's not always
back.
about the bottom line, Johnson.
You son of a bitch. What do you think? What next? We're going to sell fake robots so we can run off with our cash? You know what? You're fired. He's like, am I the only crazy person here?
I mean, the movie, all these movies are always going to depict the same thing. It's the robot learns you, then it gets smarter than you, then it finds a way to want to kill you. Yeah. And then you have to fight it, and then you realize how easy it is to beat the robot because the robot has zero coordination.
It's not that smart. You just like throw a fucking blow dryer into the bathroom where it's standing. It's like, that's it.
Over.
You know, I will say one thing now that we're on the subject, super quick. There's this like logic, and like AI doom saying has the same logic built in, and to me it's a total non sequitur. It doesn't follow that once a robot becomes more intelligent than you, it somehow decides it wants to kill you. Generally, things in your world that want to kill you are categorically stupider. Like if you run into like Albert Einstein on the street versus an Albert Einstein sized spider, which one are you more scared of? Like I want to be able to reason with the thing. If the robot's really smart, at least it has a compelling reason to kill me that it could describe to me. You don't want like, hey, like here's this robot, but it's dumb as rocks. So don't worry, it won't kill you. Like, are we sure about this? Like if my dog Gwen, idiot,
we all know
was a
Mice
robot,
of Men.
I wouldn't be comfortable with that.
We've all read of Mice of Men.
Right? Like,
we know how that turns out.
Yeah, it's all Skynet all the way down. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy that we went away from nutrition and fitness because I think people are just getting bored of it. Guys, calorie deficit, lift some weights, drink some water, go to sleep early, wake up early.
Can I stick around for another 10 minutes and answer some actual fucking questions about nutrition and training?
No,
I think
it's
great. We'd love to have you on again sometime and see if what other things maybe you're working on or whatnot. But I love these kind of conversations. I think that even the people that listen to our show love the kind of conversation we've had.
You're gonna get 10 DMs later like, this sucked, fuck you guys, I'm unsubscribing.
I think it's wild. Like this is like eye-opening stuff, you know. It's not because we'll have psychologists on, therapists on, and just talk about, you know, the mindset aspect of things, which obviously relates to, you know, why people might be struggling with stuff. But I love it. I definitely get to the part I'm like, okay, I get it when we talk about the same kind of stuff over and over again. So this was exciting.
I'd love to come back on. This has been super fun.
So you know how at the beginning you guys asked me what AI companion was, and then we'll log off here. Apparently you just type in a question in the corner. So AI companion now is on Zoom. You could type in a question. I don't know what kind of thing. So I just said, what are some topics talked about? Based on the meeting transcript, the conversation seems to be quite casual and meandering. Some of the topics discussed include the microphone being used, the keto diet, fat loss, tracking meals, and the idea of burning fat. However, it's important to note that the conversation lacks a clear structure or focus on specific topics.
Hey, Zoom, your AI is being fucking mean.
Yeah, they didn't like us talking about AI and technology in the future. I think it's like, nah, we're not recapping this. Don't
talk about me. You're like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then I asked again, like, give topics by timestamps, and it's like this appears to be a casual conversation without a clear agenda or structured discussion. And then like one of the potential prompts they gave you to use was "catch me up." So I said, "Catch me up." I'm sorry, but the meeting transcript does not provide any information about specific topics or timestamp. Okay, then what do you do? What do you do, i.e. companion?
Chat GPT they got in that motherfucker.
Yeah, I thought it would give like a transcript or a breakdown or something like that.
I think after it's over, it does some post-processing, and then it can answer a lot of questions.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. But no, this is awesome. This is great, great conversation. I loved it.
Oh, wow. So now I said, how do you lose fat to the AI thing? And it says, based on the meeting transcript, the participants discussed the topic of fat loss. They mentioned that in order to lose fat, you need to create a calorie deficit by burning more calories than you consume.
Hey, it's not wrong.
They emphasize the importance of making healthier food choices and being mindful of portion sizes. They also mentioned that exercise and physical activity play a role in burning calories and losing fat. However, they did not provide specific details or strategies for fat loss.
We never got that. That's when we started talking about robot sex dolls.
Let's see. What about robot sex dolls was discussed?
I'm so fucking blown away by this. I can't believe that this is a real thing.
Was discussed.
It's coming.
This is incredible. Like we just did an entire Zoom hour phone call, and this thing is telling us that we don't matter anymore in seconds, and that we're just getting
Again,
to be relevant.
How much did you spend on your
question,
PhD?
Yeah, I asked my question. what about robot sex dolls was discussed? I'm sorry, but the meeting transcript does not provide any information about specific topics or content.
It might be nerfed from addressing certain topics. Like
Yeah, I
you
like it.
can't like if you hit up Chat GPT and you're like flirt with me, like it only gonna go so far with you. It's not gonna be like, all right, like here's what I like, Chat GPT. Like I like to be pounded in and at the same time like cut physically with a knife. It turns me on. Can you flirt with me like that? It's gonna be like, I care about your safety too much.
It's gonna be like shoot a
So,
text to Army Hammer, that
yeah.
actor who had all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I remember that. My man.
I did on the first time Chat GPT came out. I gave it a few prompts just to see how things would go, and then I'm like, I gotta ask how instruction, however I phrase it, but basically how to give a good blowjob. I wanted
Okay.
to see how this
Okay.
thing, and it was like, you be 18, blah, blah, blah. And then it gives like
Oh,
all
yeah.
these instructions talking about sloppiness, the sounds, eye
Dude,
contact,
yes.
communication with
Eye
your partner.
contact. Holy
Wow.
fuck.
Yeah, communication with your partner. I mean, it's basically pulling up information from all over
Yes.
the internet and seeing
Yes.
what, but I was like, oh my God, this is actually given like instructions, but it really did stress communication with your partner. That was one of the biggest things.
Let me bring something up really quick. That's yeah, and it always does this like very like light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. Like it's important. Everyone's having fun. You're like, thanks, ChatGPT. One of the really trippy things about predicting kind of the future of robotics and stuff like that is eventually when we have robots and ostensibly we can have sex with them, you think about like otherwise I don't need it. Like, no,
Casually
this
say
robot
it is the
cooks your
best part.
food, it goes to does your job, it mows your lawn. I'm like, yeah, I don't need any of that. I can do all that myself. Where is it giving me hand jobs? Like, sir. But like, if you think about how you would train one of these, I mean, what's to stop the people who make one of these robots to use all of Pornhub as their data set for training?
Oh
I mean, you
God.
could have a robot that saw every porn ever made and understood every porn ever made.
I'm so
And now you
disturbed.
tell it, hey, like, let's do this activity. It knows a lot more than you do about what's going on. You're like, let's try reverse cowgirl. And it's going to be like, I got you, fam. Don't
It
you
should be
worry
like
about that
amateur.
shit."
The
Loser.
things
You're
that
like,
I've seen, and
shit.
that's what you want?
Dude, here's a real meta thing to ask the robot. To be like, okay, forget my fetishes. How do you think you could please me best? And it's like, I'm glad you asked, you dumb
Yeah, yeah.
motherfucker. And it like touches its finger to your dick and it zaps you with electricity. You just blow the biggest load of your life. You're like, do you have like a cigarette for me or something? Like, I feel like, do you have a name? Can I talk to you about
based on
this?
based on the conversation that you guys had, it seems like cigarettes are not a good idea, but we do have marijuana products.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes,
based on
it
your
would
browser,
totally
based
tell
on
you
your
that.
browser history, you don't really want to know my name, sir.
Well, we have to schedule a part 2
It's
Yes.
fun.
to see what the new concurrent research on robot sex is going to be in the next 2 to 3 months.
Yo, baby,
I'm sure
I'm like Thomas Edison up in this motherfucker. I'm
We
trying to
might
get all
have
the
to
new
have
research.
you and Crystal on to see the dynamic with this conversation.
Oh,
She does-
God.
she deals with enough. My wife deals with enough of the shit at home. But
How
to
about
her
the Nick
credit-
Shaw Mike Israetel?
Oh, that
combo?
would be funny. Nick would be laughing his fucking ass off and rolling his eyes, like, "Here we go, getting canceled again." Crystal and I have had a conversation where I was like, "Would it be cool if, like, when sex robots are around, that I get to bang him?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck." And I was like, "Dude, you're the fucking dopest bitch in the world." Because my wife's not a dummy. She's not about to get jealous of like a fucking machine. Like, if you jack
Bet
off,
you people will though.
Somebody,
Oh,
yeah.
people
People will.
absolutely will.
Absolutely.
My wife's not people, but like, dude, totally. Tons of people will be like, he's with this robot now, and like, I was better. They're like, bitch, no, you weren't.
No, you
Karen,
weren't.
you're gonna have to. Ooh, one
Oh,
quick thing. I know
God.
this is getting way off the rails, but I'll tell you this. So many people put up with dog shit behavior in relationships. Men with shitty women. I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about like emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
Yes.
abusively. So many women have to put up with like Frank the truck driver. No offense, truck drivers. You know what I mean? The whole stereotype. You know, like comes home, needs a steak and needs to beat my ass, whatever the fuck. Like terrible shit. When robots get into the business of relationships, they're going to be so goddamn good. A lot of people are going to realize what they thought was their popularity is just not around anymore. Like Lindsay from fucking college. Like, yeah, bitch, you got a tongue ring and a nose ring. You show up to a party, you get a lot of attention. I get it. But now that everyone has a tongue ring, nose ring, fucking blowjob machine at home, nobody want to hang out with you, girl. And she's like, oh my God, people used to love me. Like, nobody ever loved you. They just wanted hand jobs, dummy. And nobody ever wanted to talk to you, but they just talk to you because, well, ... You'll eventually get a hand job, I think. It's like prompting GPT very non-linearly. Like, so I got to say something to this bitch, and eventually ... She gives me a hand job. If I just go home and get a hand job for my fucking robot, bitch, what do I need you for? Now, Lindsay, don't worry. It's not all fucking darkness. You got to up your game and actually be a fucking decent human being. I don't think there's ever going to be a drop in demand for hanging out with actual, real, organic, cool ass human beings. The original, the best. But like, you're going to have to step your game up because the things you think you're useful for, you might not be useful for that shit anymore.
Are you excited for the first reality show of the polygamist family where it's just the one human guy and his 6 robot wives?
Zany. It's not a fun reality show because they're all super chill and everything's great. You're like, there's no drama here. You're like, all right, switch him to Latina mode.
Or the Russian wife mode.
Oh, Jesus Christ. She's like, honey, good news, bad news. Good news, I love you. Bad news, I bought 80 fur coats. Now you're broke. You're like, God damn it. Also, I'm leaving you for another man. His name Vladimir. He is richer, yes.
He has Mercedes-Benz 600.
600, honey. I only buy 8. Like, there is no 8. Like, there is for me. I know people in Dubai. You're like, of course you fucking know people in Dubai. I could do the Russian girl bullshit for like 10 hours straight. That impression is a bottomless pit. I don't even do it on YouTube because most people just don't understand it. They're like, what's this Mike Russian girl impression? I'm like, you got to meet these people in real life. And Russian girls listen to this. Y'all are great. I love you. Nashy Ludi and shit. I'm just kidding. But some of y'all bitches, you know who you are. You feel me?
Did you see The Machine yet? The Burt Kreischer movie? Or Kreischer movie?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there's like a Russian woman assassin. And at one point, she expresses how her favorite American show is Family Matters. And in her Russian accent, like after killing somebody, she turns and she's like, "Did I do that?"
That's so great. Family Matters is a great show, by the way. Damn, Russian bitches are smart. You know.
I know.
But yeah, man, this was great.
We will definitely run this back. And I mean, I actually want to, at the end of this episode, guys, please DM all of us and just flood us with how much you enjoyed this, please.
And if you were disturbed and offended, feel free to let us know too. We'll have you on to explain why.
And maybe like give us questions, actual questions about exercise and getting in shape for next time so that we can help you instead of just talking about dildos the whole time. But listen, I'm all in.
Hey, they found out about the new lipolysis diet by RP Strength.
Oh,
so
yes.
You're welcome, by the way.
Oh, don't thank me.
I'm the
no. Well, Mike's gonna take it, run with it.
I remember it, Jim. This is like the beginnings of Facebook and like Steve Jobs and shit. People don't get along, you know. We're like, yeah, I was in the room and he pitched that, and he didn't pitch it. He's a fucking liar.
Well, so this is gonna be broadcast, and everybody will know that it was mine. And that's all.
Ask the AI companion if that's true. She probably doesn't remember it that way.
This fucking guy, I'm gonna post it, and it's gonna be like AI switched, where they brought it up. And
Dr. Mike was the originator of the lipolysis diet. You're like, this son of a bitch.
All internet history of me saying it has been scrubbed.
It's CIA shit.
All he contributed was his white lab coat and no clothes, and the camera kept like tipping down to see his exposed penis. And they just had to keep bringing it up. That's the ad right there.
That's a good ad.
All right, man. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. This was a great time. I was tired. I had a slight headache coming into this. And that is
now
all
I have
gone.
a huge headache and I'm really tired.
That is all gone now because of you. So yeah, we appreciate you, man. Thank you. And as always, bye.